After the shocking news of Charlie Kirk's murder, the world was already in disbelief. But no one expected Burkina Faso's president, Ibrahim Traoré, to step forward with a statement and action so powerful that it shook audiences worldwide. What started as a somber moment quickly turned into an unforgettable event that left millions speechless. This video captures Traoré's stunning reaction, the emotional aftermath, and the twist that is everyone asking the same question. How did no one see this coming? The world had barely caught its breath when the breaking news hit. Charlie Kirk was dead. At just 31 years old, he had been assassinated in the heart of Utah Valley University, a place where students once debated ideas but now whispered in fear. Cameras replayed the chaos, shouts, running feet, and then the unbearable stillness as Kirk's body was rushed away under sheets of white. In homes across America, disbelief reigned. Commentators argued endlessly, but the deeper question haunted everyone. Why him and why now? Days passed, and leaders across the globe issued predictable statements, condemnations, condolences, political sound bites. But one figure remained silent. Burkina Faso's president, Ibrahim Traoré. At 37, Traoré had already become a symbol of defiance against Western double standards. Yet on this matter, he said nothing. Whispers filled social media. Some said he was calculating. Others believed he was mourning privately. Still, no one could imagine that his silence was not avoidance, but preparation, because when Traoré finally chose to speak, the entire world would tremble. The stage was set, but no one saw it coming. Not the media, not the politicians, not even Kirk's own allies. On the fourth day after the assassination, the silence broke. Without warning, a notification lit up millions of phones. President Ibrahim Traoré joins X Spaces with Turning Point USA executives live. Shock rippled instantly. Viewers expected U.S. politicians or local university leaders to lead the narrative. Not a young African president thousands of miles away. Yet within minutes, over 15 million people joined the stream, flooding the chat with disbelief. Traoré's camera opened to his face, calm, somber, eyes heavy with both sadness and fire. His opening words were not political. They were human. Charlie Kirk, he said slowly, was more than an American activist. To me, he was a brother in the struggle for truth. What many of you did not know is that Charlie and I had a secret plan. He had agreed to come to Ouagadougou in 2026 to stand before African youth and tell them that their fight for freedom is also America's fight. Gasps filled the stream. Executives beside him nodded, confirming what had been kept quiet. Suddenly, Kirk's murder wasn't just an American tragedy. It was a global wound. The room fell silent after Traoré's words. No one had known. Not even Kirk's closest allies had revealed this private commitment. The realization washed over the audience. Charlie had carried a vision he never lived to see. Traoré continued, his voice breaking with restrained anger. Do you see why he was killed? He wanted to build bridges where others built walls. He saw Africa's struggle against exploitation as tied to America's struggle against hypocrisy. His killers feared united truths. People listening began to cry. Some typed furiously in the chat. Why didn't he tell us? Others wrote, this changes everything. In that moment, Traoré's image shifted in the minds of millions. He was no longer just a distant African president. He was the keeper of Charlie's final dream. And then came the twist. Traoré leaned forward, speaking with quiet power. The files of our communications are safe. If America's authorities remain silent, I will not. I will release the evidence to the world because no truth dies with the man who carried it. The stream erupted. Tears, anger, shock, emotions collided. A storm had just begun. The moment Traoré's words ended, the world seemed to freeze. Newsrooms scrambled. Pundits choked on half-finished sentences. And families at dinner tables sat in silence, staring at their phones. The revelation that Charlie Kirk had been secretly planning to travel to Ouagadougou for a Pan-African Youth Summit shook people to their core. On social media, hashtags exploded. Traoré honors Kirk, United Truths, and why Charlie trended within minutes. Some mourned openly, others demanded answers. But one common feeling dominated disbelief. How could it be that a 31-year-old American conservative figure had been preparing to stand in solidarity with African youth against exploitation? And nobody knew. Even Kirk's closest allies looked stunned during the broadcast. The secret had been buried so deep, kept quiet because of death threats, that only Traoré now carried it forward. What made it more powerful was the authenticity of Traoré's grief. He did not speak as a distant leader or a politician hungry for spotlight. His voice broke, his eyes betrayed sorrow, and yet his words carried strength. In those 45 minutes, he became something else to millions, a symbol of truth unafraid to cross oceans. By the next morning, journalists around the world were on fire. Every major outlet demanded access to the files Traoré mentioned. Were there really records of private conversations between him and Kirk? Could proof exist that Kirk's killers feared his alliance with Africa? Pressure mounted. CNN ran a segment titled "Traoré's Claim Hope or Hoax," while Fox News demanded immediate investigation in Ouagadougou. However, Traoré remained calm. At a small press briefing, he simply stated, "The documents will speak for themselves. I will not let the memory of a brother be twisted by those who profit from his silence." Behind the scenes, Turning Point USA executives confirmed to their supporters that encrypted emails and video exchanges indeed existed. They had seen them with their own eyes. Crowds outside the U.S. Embassy in Burkina Faso began holding vigils for Kirk, candles glowing under the night sky. For many, the bond between a young African president and an American activist became a story larger than politics. But still the mystery deepened. Who exactly wanted Kirk dead, and why now? Just as he prepared to step onto African soil with a message of unity. On the 6th day after Charlie's death, emotions boiled over. His family, still reeling in grief, broke their silence. In a trembling voice, Kirk's widow confirmed what Traoré had revealed. She explained that Charlie had indeed received private invitations from Ouagadougou, but had hidden them because of the violent threats he faced back home. Her words cracked the hearts of millions watching. He believed in building bridges, even if it cost him his life. I only wish the world could have heard him in Africa. When she said this, Traoré, joining remotely, bowed his head in respect. He did not interrupt. He let her grief stand unchallenged. And in that silence, his character spoke louder than words. For many Americans, this was the first time they saw Traoré not as a headline, but as a human being, a man of compassion, a man who could mourn alongside them, even from thousands of miles away. But as tears filled homes, questions filled the air. If Charlie's mission was truly that dangerous, then who behind the shadows had silenced him? The answer was coming, but no one was ready for how it would shake the world. By the 7th day, whispers reached Washington. High-ranking officials huddled in late-night meetings, worried not just about Kirk's murder, but about Traoré's growing influence. His statement had cut through political divides, and that terrified them. What if the world believes him? One senator muttered during a closed briefing. What if this alliance spreads? Reporters outside the White House demanded answers. Why was an African president more open about Kirk's death than American authorities? Cameras caught silence, tight lips, and evasive gestures. The absence of clarity only fueled suspicion. Meanwhile, Kirk's supporters lit candles outside Utah Valley University. Students cried, clutching handwritten notes. "Charlie, you stood for us." In Ouagadougou, Traoré remained steady. He ignored the noise and focused on what mattered, ensuring the truth did not die in the shadows. That night, in a symbolic move, he placed a single white rose beneath a portrait of Charlie Kirk at the Burkina Bay State House. Photos of the moment went viral, drawing millions of tears across continents. The young president's actions sent a message louder than politics. Grief can unite even across oceans. The following morning, something unexpected happened. Without warning, a document leaked online. It contained snippets of email exchanges between Charlie Kirk and Traoré's office, confirming plans for the 2026 summit in Ouagadougou. The email showed Charlie's words. "If I fall for this, it will not be because of silence, but because I refuse to stop speaking truth." The internet broke. Screenshots spread like wildfire. Millions cried, reading the courage of a man who knew his life was in danger, yet refused to back down. Traoré's spokesperson addressed the leak calmly. "These are only fragments. The full truth will come. But let it be clear, Charlie's dream was real and his voice will not be erased." Across the world, vigils turned into rallies. In New York, Los Angeles, and even small towns in the Midwest, people carried placards. United truths cannot be killed. Suddenly, it wasn't just about Charlie anymore. It was about what he represented. And Traoré, far from America, had become the unexpected guardian of that flame. By now, the story had overtaken every headline. Commentators who once dismissed Traoré began speaking his name with respect. His face appeared on split screens beside Charlie's. Two young men, one gone too soon, the other standing boldly in his memory. But beneath the emotion, fear simmered. If Charlie's killers had struck to silence his connection with Africa, then who were they? And could they strike again? Security experts warned that both Turning Point USA and Traoré's administration were under new threat. Rumors circulated that intelligence agencies were quietly monitoring the situation, worried about a backlash that could spiral beyond control. Yet Traoré did not retreat. Instead, he announced he would join another Live X Spaces session within 48 hours, this time promising to reveal the complete evidence of his partnership with Charlie. The announcement sent shockwaves. People cleared their schedules, waiting for the day. Hashtags surged again. The countdown had begun. Millions whispered the same question in living rooms, cafes, and campuses. If this is true, who feared it so much that they chose murder? The answer was drawing near, closer than anyone dared to imagine. 2 days before Traoré's promised second X Spaces session, the atmosphere was electric. Across college campuses in the U.S., students planned watch parties. In West Africa, youth gathered in public squares, preparing to hear a message that felt bigger than politics. Meanwhile, powerful figures behind closed doors grew restless. Intelligence briefings leaked to journalists warned of uncontrolled narratives. Some feared that Traoré's next revelation could expose connections nobody wanted made public. In Utah, at the spot where Charlie Kirk had been killed, his supporters set up a massive projector to stream the coming broadcast. His widow attended, clutching her husband's photograph, surrounded by candles and trembling hands. Charlie believed truth should be spoken, she whispered to reporters. If President Traoré carries that forward, then Charlie's voice still lives. The world waited, but beneath the anticipation was a quiet dread. What if the truth was too heavy to carry? As the countdown ticked, strange reports began circulating. Unmarked cars were spotted outside Turning Point USA headquarters. Anonymous threats filled inboxes of staff connected to Traoré's first broadcast. Some executives hesitated. Should we even let him speak again? One asked nervously. But the answer came from the crowd itself. Millions online demanding, let Traoré talk. In Ouagadougou, Traoré addressed his security team. Calm but firm, he said. If I stay silent, they win twice. Once with Charlie's death and again with our fear. That cannot happen. The bravery of a young African president standing against invisible powers moved millions even before he spoke. His refusal to retreat became a story of its own, sparking admiration from unexpected quarters, church leaders, student groups, even skeptics who had once dismissed him. But the threats were real. Rumors whispered that certain forces would do anything to stop the broadcast. And yet the timer continued. Nothing was canceled. Nothing was delayed. The world held its breath, waiting for the storm. At exactly 6 p.m., Washington time, the second XP Spaces session went live. Over 20 million people joined in the first 5 minutes. The digital air buzzed with nervous excitement. Traoré appeared wearing a simple white shirt, no military uniform, no grand stage. He spoke softly. I come before you not as a president, but as a friend who refuses to bury truth. Then he unveiled a set of files, screenshots, voice recordings, and video snippets of his private conversations with Charlie Kirk. In one clip, Charlie's voice shook as he said, If I don't make it, promise me you'll tell them. Promise me Africa's fight is not forgotten. The chat section exploded. Tears streamed worldwide as people heard Charlie's own words, full of both fear and courage. Trey paused, his eyes heavy. Charlie was willing to risk everything, and I will not let his sacrifice be in vain. The same enemies who silenced him will not silence us. The moment pierced hearts everywhere. Millions wept openly. And yet deep inside, a chilling question grew louder. If he dared to expose this, what would they try to do to him next? The second broadcast ended, but its echoes roared louder than any speech in recent memory. Streets from Lagos to Los Angeles filled with people holding candles, photos of Charlie Kirk, and banners with Traoré's words, United truths cannot be killed. Even skeptics were moved. On live TV, one American anchor broke down mid-sentence, her voice cracking, This isn't politics anymore. This is about a man who believed in something bigger than himself, and another man brave enough to tell us. For the first time, Burkina Faso, a small West African nation, was on every front page. Traoré had unintentionally become the bridge between two worlds, the global South and America's restless youth. Meanwhile, governments scrambled. Some leaders praised him, others panicked. But the ordinary people didn't care for politics. They saw humanity, grief, and courage all rolled into one unexpected alliance. And in that tide of emotion, something else rose quietly. Fear. If Charlie's killers had silenced him for daring to dream this big, what might they attempt next, now that the dream was louder than ever? Less than 24 hours after the broadcast, a sealed envelope arrived at Traoré's office in Ouagadougou. No one knew who sent it. The handwriting was shaky. The ink smudged. Inside was a short note, unsigned. "Stop speaking or you will share his fate." His aides froze, terror written across their faces, but Traoré only read the letter once, folded it neatly, and set it on the table. "Let the world see this," he told his staff. "Let them know what we are facing." Within hours, the letter was photographed and released to international media. The effect was explosive. Millions wept harder. Not only had Charlie been murdered for truth, but now the man who defended his memory was being threatened in the same way. Social media erupted with one voice. "Protect Traoré." Hashtags trended worldwide. The fear intended to silence him only made his courage shine brighter. In homes across the globe, families prayed aloud for a president thousands of miles away whom they had never met, but now felt deeply connected to. The seventh day approached, the last of a week that felt like a century. Traoré announced that he would make one final statement before the world, not just to honor Charlie, but to declare what must come next. Flights into Ouagadougou filled with journalists. Security tightened around government buildings. Supporters camped outside, chanting, "Tro, speak the truth." At Utah Valley University, thousands gathered once more, waiting for the live stream. Charlie's widow sat in the front row, clutching her late husband's ring in her hands, whispering prayers for both him and Traoré. The air felt thick, almost electric, as though history itself was trembling. Everyone knew this wasn't just about a murder anymore. It was about a movement, one that spanned continents and refused to be silenced. And as the final broadcast drew closer, one question consumed every heart. Would the truth finally come out? Or would the forces of fear strike again before the world could hear it? The seventh day arrived. The world seemed to pause. Across continents, screens flickered with anticipation. In Ouagadougou, crowds flooded the streets holding Birkin Bay and American flags side by side. At Utah Valley University, thousands filled the auditorium where Charlie had once spoken, waiting for the live feed to begin. Security was tight. Rumors swirled of possible disruptions, but nothing stopped the gathering. The moment was bigger than fear. Then Traoré appeared on the stream. His face was calm, but his eyes revealed the weight he carried. He began not with politics, but with silence, a long, heavy pause that made millions lean in. "Today," he said softly, "we close a week of grief. But grief is not the end. It is the beginning of truth." The crowd erupted in chants. His presence felt less like a head of state and more like a brother standing beside the mourning. But everyone knew this final message would either seal Charlie's legacy or risk silencing both men forever. Traoré raised a folder, simple and unmarked. Inside were the full records of his conversations with Charlie. Emails, recordings, even handwritten notes. He read one line slowly, his voice breaking. "If they take me, Ibrahim, promise them my dream will live. Charlie." Gasps echoed across the live chat. Millions of viewers began to sob openly, typing broken messages. "I can't stop crying. Charlie lives on. Protect Traoré." Traoré looked into the camera, unflinching. Charlie Kirk believed Africa's fight was America's fight. His killers feared this unity. But today I tell you, his dream is not dead. It lives in me. It lives in you. And it will outlive those who fear it. At Utah Valley University, Charlie's widow clutched her chest, weeping as students held her hands. In Ouagadougou, young people raised their fists high, tears streaming. The world saw it clearly. A bond of sacrifice between two men who believed in something larger than themselves. And in that moment, fear turned into fire. As the final minutes of the broadcast unfolded, Traoré's words pierced hearts across oceans. Charlie Kirk is gone, but his dream has crossed the ocean. Together we carry it forward. And as long as I breathe, his voice will never be silenced. The crowd in Utah erupted in sobs and applause. In Burkina Faso, chants of Charlie Traoré, united truths shook the night sky. Even journalists, hardened by years of covering wars and scandals,